Okay, so this talk is called the Elusive IT Soft Skills, Essential P2P Skills for IT Professionals and Security Professionals. The focus is really going to be on talking about the soft skills, not the hard skills. My name is Justin, and I am a Senior Systems Administrator with TSG Resources in North Canton. But I haven't been there the entire career. I've obviously started somewhere else. I started in a help desk technical support for a K-12 school, and some people may say, well, what's the benefit of that versus any other help desk position? The interesting point is that our customers, when I was working at a help desk, were not somebody who was inside the business, was not somebody that I was directly supporting that I could report to in any sort of way. These are people that were receiving government funding to attend our free education school, and as such, they felt like they deserved a whole lot. So it required a lot of patience and soft skills and understanding and a lot of support in order to get them moving along. In addition to that, I have a background in live sound and in theater. My family, it started as a theater family, meaning that we attended Playhouse Square and we worked there. I grew up on stage and backstage, working in a lot of capacities. And the interesting thing from that is that it not only teaches you a lot of interesting points of view from people, sometimes very, very strong opinions, and dealing with all of those types of personalities. So getting a wide breadth. I'm also a wedding entertainer with a company owned by my wife. It's called Something New Entertainment. And again, handling very stressful environments with a lot of conflict. And a lot of people say, well, how does that really applicable to IT or security in any sort of way? And I'd like to go ahead and show you here in just a second. So the myth of the computer guy in most realms is that that person avoids people. They're antisocial. Can you guys agree that that's maybe a common trend? Beyond that, they might be grumpy or unmotivated. They might be considered the loner. If they were to put them in front of a panel, they would be the person who would sit in the corner of the room and really wouldn't want to interact. A person who's nerdy or a social outcast. None of us have any sort of qualities like these, correct? Correct? I'm sure. Superiority. They're impossible to reason with. They're always right. There's never a doubt that they have that maybe their solution isn't the right one. And ungroomed and unkempt. And I want to tell you that every single one of these, I personally have an issue with. I want to avoid people. I want to be antisocial at times. I'm grumpy and unmotivated. I want to be a loner at certain portions. I'm considered a nerd and a social outcast, and then I'm sometimes very stubborn and impossible to deal with, and although I'm trying to be well-dressed today, I'm not always well-groomed and well-kept. So when you think of this, you might think of the SNL skit of your technical support person, the person who's just working in the background, pedo stash, a little bit of creepy, a little bit weird. You probably don't want to leave them with your kids. And this is obviously taken to it a very extreme. But an interesting point when I was doing some of this research, a quote came from an executive from Hitachi, and that is people in information technology tend to lack certain skills like empathy and social abilities. Folks in information tech divisions are famous in our industry for not getting along with other people in other parts of the companies. And this is somebody an executive from Hitachi talking about his specific IT peoples in security, in development, and programming. And I can definitely agree that I have seen this in my career, and I'm sure you guys have seen that too. And we know that we can do better. We know that we can overcome these. These are skills and talents that we can become better at, we can craft ourselves, and we can work forward to being more proficient in. So what we're really talking about is our soft skills. Technical skills can be reproduced any day of the week. A person in India can have the exact same technical skills that you have. And the person who's the red shirt is going to have the exact same technical skills, maybe worse. But what we can do is what we can work on our soft skills, beyond our technical, beyond our domain-based skills, and into our soft skills. And these are personal attributes that really enable somebody to work effectively and harmoniously with other people. Because if we've got the whole world coming after us alone is not going to be what's going to stop them from getting in. What's going to protect us? What's going to protect us is for us to work and collaborate, to be able to get along with management, our customers, our fellow employees, our fellow security professionals. So it really breaks down to several topics. There are about 6 different points that I can kind of come up with to synthesize down what are soft skills. And I've looked through numerous sites. First one being communication. Communication really ties into all of our soft skills, and it really is the way that we can work with other people. Drive and attitude. And drive and attitude, obviously, pretty simple. Come into work, be ready to take on a new project. Teamwork, willing to work with others. Networking, willing to talk with others and get information. Obviously, all of you guys have that skill, and I'm very proud of you for coming in and willing to network, willing to accept the fact that maybe we might not know everything that's out there. Problem solving and critical thinking. This is one that a lot of technical people are usually pretty good at, but I'm going to tell you a little more about that one. And then last, professionalism. And if you take a look at these 6 things, and I'll actually jump back, they come up right to the 6th front right there. So communication, avoiding people and antisocial, grumpy and grumpy and unmotivated, nerdy, a social outcast, superiority, and grooming and unkempt. So really how we're going to be able to bring these into action, and the point is that these are important in every position. These are important if you are from a help desk all the way until you're the CIO or security officer, because you're going to need to work with your coworkers, the people who are above you, the people below you, and your customers. And so it's important in your daily life also. It's going to be pivotal for working with your family. And if you start to enact some of these talents and skills, you'll see that things kind of seem to work a little bit easier. When you have a problem in the bureaucratic, some mumbo jumbo, maybe paying your water bill, and you start applying some of these talents and skills, you'll find that things just kind of work a little bit easier. This is the soft skills, are the grease that keeps the world moving. And of course, likability, which is soft skills, makes everything easier. A good point is that soft skills are the packaging to which you deliver your brilliance to your clients and your colleagues. And it's a time saver. So starting out with communication, I mentioned that we're going to go through each one of these points. One of the key ones, and obviously the very simplest, is our verbal communication. And verbal is really coming up with the sounds, the language, the tone of voice. The oral, which is you hearing, which is our listening and hearing. Next is our nonverbal, and that's facial expressions, your body language, and of course your posture. If I'm slunched over, picked right up. Next, written. That is emails, text messages, the diction in your writing, the grammar, and even the spelling. And this is one that I've had a lot of issues with myself. And the visual. That's interpersonal and interpreting signs, your symbols, and pictures that are all around you. So our verbal communication really comes down to the sounds, our language, our tone of voice. So if I was to come to you and I started saying, well, you asked me, can we go ahead and do X, Y, and Z? And I said, yeah. It's really much different than if you come and ask me and I say, yes. You can hear the tone that comes from that. The language, I say yes, but I'm meaning completely different things. And when we are thinking in our mind, we're not thinking, well, this person is not going to interpret this way. We're simply thinking, yes, I'm going to tell you, I can help you, I can make that happen. But my mind is somewhere else. I'm worrying about Dave Kennedy's new exploit that he just brought out. But it's very important, the language is very important, like your vocabulary and your diction, or a choice of words within a specific situation, that you also use proper grammar. So being able to negotiate and influence others really is pivotal upon what you're saying and how you're saying it. And that's everything that comes right out of this portion. Oral communication is, of course, your hearing. But the interesting thing is it's not just, some people say, well, what's the difference between you hearing something and you truly listening? And what's very important is that you may hear someone talking. You may hear the CEO or the CIO or someone else speaking, and you hear it, and it goes in and comes back out. It's just like if you had read a piece of Shakespeare. You had read a piece of Shakespeare, you might understand, it may come to you and mean something. But if you were to see it performed by a person in the Globe Theater, you would be feeling completely different. The words take on a new meaning, and the cadence and tone is completely different because the way that you're listening and the position, the mindset that you're coming from. So you're actively listening, you're engaging, eye contact, and of course, working from there. Nonverbal communication. This is pretty simple. We've got facial expressions, your body language, your posture. I know a lot of us sit in chairs a long time, and that begins poor posture on ourselves, and we need to make sure that we are actively remembering the way that our posture reflects upon the world. If I came in and I was hunched over and not very interested, but I still talk to you, it means something completely different than I stood up. I respect myself and I respect the ideas that I'm bringing towards you. It allows me to hold pride in myself and therefore sort of demand a pride from everybody else to you. Your facial expressions. If you're frowning while someone else is talking, hands crossed, that's going to show a lot. It's going to, like Dave speaks about, that hugs are worth more than handshakes. And it really comes down to that you're making that contact. You're creating a position. A lot of people forget about the nonverbal communication. They forget. They say, well, I've said the right words and I didn't say it meanly. But they forget the way that they are presenting, because what everybody sees is one of the most important things. That's what 90% is how you're presenting it, and 10% is only really what you say. Next is written communication. We live in a world of digital communications, and we all know that. But we used to have just letters and memos, and now we've got emails, texts, and chats to deal with. And that's really just stuff that we put on ourselves. So letters, memos, emails, text messages, chats or messages. If I'm simply replying with a one-word phrase or just a quick response, and I may be sending it to someone in my team, they may not completely understand because they know that we're busy, we're picking up very quickly. While if I am sending it to a message to one of our customers, or I'm proposing a message asking them to do a particular task, or to accept the new security policy that I'm putting in play, it's completely different. They don't have the facial expressions. They don't have your nonverbal communication to present from. They don't even have some of the tone that you're creating. Everything is in the words. And so you need to be very clear the way that you write in order to communicate that effectively. And of course, we've got your written communication being diction, grammar, and spelling. Next one we mentioned was our visual communication. And visual communication really comes down to how we interpret the world around us. So same as the oral, is we can be engaged or not engaged, we can comprehend, we can actively listen, maybe ask questions to respond, to engage from there. This is how we interpret the signs around us. How do I interpret a posture of someone else, the symbols that may be around us that someone may be relating, someone being very tired holding their head? Am I going to keep asking them questions and trying to make them do more and more things, or am I going to stop, empathize, and then move forward? And then drive, so that's a lot of our communication. The next point that I wanted to mention was our drive and attitude. And it really what keeps you moving towards your goal, despite numerous obstacles in your way. It's a tendency to keep trying with persistence and determination and perseverance, and an ability that is highly prized in our industry, as well across disciplines. The important thing is, as you're working through this and you're using tenacity and you're feeling empathy, you're understanding that some of the missions and issues that you may be pushing for, others may not. And we work obviously security, and that's our main interest. But a lot of other people, it's about getting their report done. It's about now you're asking me to remember another login, and you're asking me to change my password how often, and you're telling me that I can't do it the way that we used to do it. Why can't that even be? You have a drive that you want to have, but you need to have the empathy and understanding that these things are not as easy for other people to understand. They're not going to be as simple as, well, of course, we need to increase this particular setting. We need to make sure that these particular doors and issues are resolved. And no, you can't bring your own laptop into the environment. No, you can't start installing your own software. No, you can't have administrative rights. People aren't going to really understand that because they're going to feel, I haven't gotten broken into yet. What's it really going to matter? And having empathy and understanding, and then being able to use your communication to show them and tell them about the risk that might be involved, is what's really going to allow that pill to go down a lot smoother. Next is teamwork. And a lot of times we believe that we are in an island all to ourselves. We are the only person in our department that may be handling security, or only person with that security mindset. What we need to remember is that we still have opportunities to use teamwork and cooperation, contribution, and giving and receiving, responsibility and respectiveness, and sharing. Now, all of these really come down to the understanding that you may be called to help other people. And if you want something in the future, the best thing you can do is to help other people achieve what they are looking for and work with them in order to resolve a particular issue. Now, if your team, while you're working on a particular project, excels very well, you should also provide contribution and cooperation to that. You should be letting other people know that they have contributed to it. So if you do receive praise, giving that praise out and sharing it, letting other people know that there was other people as part of that team. It's a fallacy that we think in our mind that we believe that if we took full credit for something, it's going to make us better somehow, that we are going to be able to shine, our star is going to shine even brighter. But the fact is that teamwork is prized far more than individuality. This is a soft skill. They, of course, can get more technical skills out there, but getting a person that can work with teams harmoniously, and especially teams maybe at different vendors and working with them, is really what's going to get you moving ahead. And of course, the next one is our networking. Networking, obviously, what we're doing today, or we'll do a little later, is discussing issues that we may be having. We may be on chat forums, we may be discussing topics and theoretical things, of course, not releasing private information. But it really is the hidden job market. This is where using your other soft skills is going to allow you to move forward. So by discussing with people and talking with them and finding out things that they may know and that you may not know and sharing insights is what's really going to allow you to move forward in the job market that exists. And I read a statistic that about 80% of jobs are not even posted. They're simply just hires. They interviewed a friend, came on in because they knew that somebody who might be looking for a job. Maybe somebody at Tri-C was looking and I heard that there's a position, I start to apply and I move forward. So you got collaboration and of course a willingness to ask for help. And one real important thing is mentoring. We've got a lot of great experience and a lot of great security professionals that are tied to this network, that come to these meetings, people who present, and you should use those resources that are around you. If you do have a question, something you don't understand, is network with them, communicate with them, try to find out how maybe something you can provide to them and they can provide back. Next is critical thinking. Our critical thinking really comes down to problem solving, thinking on your feet, assessing problems, and finding solutions. So if you were dropped in a particular environment, and as technicals, we are usually pretty good at, by this point in our careers, getting some critical thinking. But one thing we want to remember is that as we're working out our problems, there may be solutions through networking, through teamwork, that we may not be aware of. There may be more other missions that may be critical business functions that we can't just say, get rid of Java because it's a security issue and that's going to solve everything. Critical thinking might mean that you might do a phased approach, or you may offer sandboxed environments, or you may limit it to only certain processes. So being able to be a critical thinker is going to be another soft skill that is really highly prized by employers. And then, of course, professionalism. Professionalism is responsibility, timeliness, standards, honesty, integrity, well-groomed, polite, and the list can keep on going on. What it really comes down to is if your grandfather, or the person you may have looked up to as you were growing up, would have done these particular standards, and would he feel or they feel that you are being professional in your realm? Are you arriving? Do you care about the work that you're providing? Do you care about the growth that you're going to do? No one's going to care whether or not your career goals. And professionalism is really where you're going to be pushing those career goals, where you're going to be moving forward. We're going to be thinking about how can we correct issues that I see around me. How can I use my problem solving and identify issues that may exist and correct them? And of course, you may be all saying, well, what's the point? I sit in the corner, I do my work, I get it accomplished, the world doesn't come crashing around me. But 85%, and this is a study from a group of HR professionals, 85% of employees are fired for lack of soft skills, and only 15% are technical skills. So 15% of people are only fired because they just didn't have the technical depth. They weren't in their domain when they were hired on, or the job required a different expanse and they couldn't keep up. But 85% are people who just couldn't get along with others, couldn't communicate, couldn't take pride in their work, couldn't work with other people and basically fit into the group, be likable. And that's something that people with in technical skills and people in high IQs, probably the group of people that are in here, may still struggle with. I know that I do. 61% of people, 61% of IT execs agree that it's really that the IT execs, they would much more prefer to have a person with soft skills. This is from Microsoft, 61% of IT execs, I forgot to put that on there, of Microsoft, IT execs agree that it's more important to have soft skills than technical skills. They would much more prefer to have a person come on in, be able to work with others, be adaptable, be able to grow and learn, than a person who has a bachelor's degree, than a person who may know complete academic knowledge but have no real social skills in any sort of way. Because the thing is, you can teach a person about the technical skills very quickly and very easily, but to teach soft skills, those are something that you really have to develop on yourself, because you've got to develop the personality. You've got to break out of your comfort zone. You've got to be able to say, I am going to go ahead and meet these new people, and I am going to talk with these other people, and I'm going to write a little bit more. I'm going to give this person a little bit more of my time, because they're important. And then, of course, the top 10%, it's found that of the successful technical employees, they collaborated. So a study was done, and it found that out of all the most successful technical employees, they were willing to work with other people. They were willing to interact. They're willing to talk and share ideas and grow more. And this study was done with programmers and non-programmers also. So I really wanted to figure out what was valued at employers nowadays, and I did a little bit of a looking around, and I found that something obviously a little bit surprising, but if you look back at some of the job applications, 99% talk about work ethic. 96% talk about language. 95% for reading and writing. 94% for problem solving and critical thinking. 94% was interpersonal skills. And what do you guys think would be the next, where do you think computer skills would come in all of this? In computer software? You think it would be like 93, maybe in the 90s? Came up as 68. Only 68% were looking for computer software. That was important to them. So what you can really see is here, the top 5 are really all coming up with things that we've just spoke about, all these soft skills. That's what they're really looking for. This is a study from the National Association of Colleges and Employers. This is the employer's rate of importance of specific qualities and skills rated between a 5-point scale, because 1 being not important and 5 being very important. You can see communication skills, honesty, integrity, interpersonal skills, initiative, teamwork skills, right on down. And we get to computer skills, the upper portion, but really analytical, flexibility and adaptability, detail-oriented. And all of these are points that were drawn out from our main 6 concepts. Technical skills are necessary, of course, but the soft skills, the technical skills are going to get you in the door, but the soft skills are what's really going to hold you there. Like I said, if the 85% of employees are let go because of soft skills, you can get yourself in the door by knowing how to deal with security or knowing about this new technology that's out. But if you can't work with other people, you're not going to be there long. You're going to be let go. And you're going to be back on the market with a tarnished resume. That's not what anybody wants. Everybody wants to have longevity and wants to move in their career when they're ready to move, when the position no longer satisfies them, or their interests have changed, or their family dynamics have looked otherwise. So it's really important to think about the way that the world is interpreting us and how the message that you're presenting to other people. You know, if you to get a job, you typically need a repertoire of technical skills. So a dentist needs to know how to pull teeth, knows how to clean teeth, and accountants need to be certified, and a secretary may need to know type 100 words per minute. I mean, these are very, very raw. You either have it or you don't. But if you've ever been to a dentist, or you've ever gone to an accountant, or you've ever worked with somebody who just didn't have these soft skills, you probably weren't with them for very long. They just rub on you wrong. They just don't have any bedside manner. They're just really, really awkward, and nobody wants to be drawn to them. So if a work environment is a family, they're not going to want to keep you around if you're making everybody feel awkward. And at the same time, if you did mesh well with the entire environment, you're far less likely to be outsourced. You're far less likely to be drawn, to be marginalized in the company, and instead you're going to be included in some of these decisions and moved up through escalation, and being able to move up the corporate ladder and become more influential in some of your environment. So I guess I was a little bit short in time, but I do have any questions you guys might have. I'd love to be able to answer them.
So how does a guy like me, who's right 99% of the time, who has to work with a bunch of people who just don't get it, how do I acquire such skills to have to work with people? Repeat the question.
He was saying with the person who already knows everything, how do you acquire such skills to be able to deal with these people? And why should you?
Well, I guess you just mean.
Why should you? Obviously, that I mentioned before, is because you're not going to be kept around long. You may be valued at this particular moment, but when the opportunity comes that you could be let go or changed out, you most likely are going to. There's a cost associated with that because you bring such technical skills to the environment, but it's going to be on the table. It's going to be an option. But for you to gain those skills, you can do things like we're doing right now, is sitting down, talking with people, and thinking, being active about your mindset and what you're doing. So I may be sitting at a NEOISF meeting, and it gets finished with the talker, and he was awesome, and I decide to instead sit and eat another piece of pizza. Or I get up and I decide I want to talk to somebody else who hasn't been here before. Maybe the two people that mentioned that have never been, I want to invite and then talk with them. And I become interested, and I stay active, and I perform the active listening skills that I know that are good. I know that these are things that people expect. I've learned these in grade school. These are basic ingrained things. I be the best person that I can be, and really take myself back that maybe that person knows something that I'm not aware of. I may know 99% of the things in my realm, but there's a whole different world that's out there that is not part of my realm, that is not part of my company, it's not part of my domain that I've created. So understanding that, respecting that, and then moving forward.
So is it my personal responsibility to go out and do this, or should my company be investing in executive coaches for everybody?
I believe that it's obviously there are executive coaches that are out there. You can encourage your companies to do so. I believe that you don't need any hullabaloo. I think that we all know, for the most part, what we are expected to do in social engagements. And we just choose to do things that fall back into our nature. We choose to not interact with people. We choose to be short. We choose to have our focus somewhere else. And these are things that you can do by yourself, just being aware of it and taking the actions. Any other questions?
How do we get our managers to do it?
How do you get your managers? Honestly, just talk to them about the importance of soft skills. If you'd like to get some of the slides, the statistics, I can provide you the sources where I got them from. If you want to give a quick presentation to them, the managers, on the impact. I've even got more that talk about the impact to the customers and the relationship from there, and the importance, the growth of the business, and the ROI of being aware of the social skills that you provide to your environment.
And also, what kind of organizations do you belong to? So, just as an example, while the messaging anti-abuse working group, before each of their meetings, they have a professional trainer or facilitator who comes in, and there's two kinds of sessions that he gives. One is on moderating, and the other is on facilitating. So, I mean, to expect your company to do this for you, I think is unrealistic. They may or may not, but this is about you. And I'm going to disagree with you a little bit.
That's fine.
I'm going to put it this way. If you're going to insult somebody or make somebody uncomfortable, do it intentionally. Don't do it because you're not thinking about it. So a good example of a situation I was in where some managers did something that
maybe a person of salt to the earth, they were willing to take it. Yeah, you kicked me on the side. You're right, I did that. I made a dumb call. I guess kind of had this coming. But other people may not feel that way. And again, taking into tact, taking into the empathy that you need to be in their shoes, and maybe they may not be the same type of personality. And obviously, that's going to be a case-by-case basis. I know that some people I work with, I can give them jobs all day long, and they're fine because they're going to give it right back to me. But that's the relationship that we have. It's much different than the relationship I might have with someone else.
Great idea. I want to make sure he has credit for it. He wants to reboot the servers at lunchtime. And so I want to make sure that he gets credit for that. Because sometimes he might forget that he made that decision, and when the servers don't come back up, forget that he made that decision. So sometimes it's important to make sure that they get credit, because I want to tie their responsibility to their accountability.
Mm-hmm. And that's about having a sponsor. If you've got a project that's being rolled, even a small one, such as rebooting the servers, we're going to do this, and this time, in this period of time, that person's the sponsor, and that's their name that's attached to it. And so you're just executing what the manager, what the supervisor has given you to do, and having a project plan, a scope, a charter, even for small projects just like that of rebooting the servers, it's what's going to CYA and provide you. Yeah, email train. I mean, it's Tuesday. We got to put patches, right? So. Yeah.
I'd like to follow up with his question about where do you learn that. I took a class at TriC about 3 years ago in SoftSkills under IT department.
Oh, really? Was it enjoyable?
Pardon?
Was it functional and helpful for you?
I haven't been around a little longer than most of the students there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm 25 years older than most of them. I think it was very functional for the younger students.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I had already had some indoctrination into the real world, to fire and stuff, but it was helpful to me, and there was just, you went through a whole book on it, and you had to, analyze different situations, and I forget the exact name of the book.
Did you have to do sharpening saws and fill an emotional bank account?
But it was actually it was a functional class, and I forget the name and the number of the class. I'd be happy to find if somebody was interested in it.
You bring up a great point about the age difference, and there is a generational shift that has occurred for Gen Y and Gen X and younger than them, the older than them, the millennials. And I mean, I don't think that any of us here, we all remember when we didn't have a cell phone, but some of the people who are coming onto the market nowadays that are just graduating, people may have attended the class with you, they don't remember a time when there wasn't a cell phone. They always had a computer to access. They always had a computer in the home, and maybe several. They had availability like that. So the way that they communicate, they may communicate in short quips. They may communicate in leet speak or lingo or things like that. And you being maybe of a more experienced environment, have already been in the workspace, you know that that's just not going to fly for most people. And you see that in the millennials extensively. They're texting on their phone the entire time, and they can't be pulled away because they're feeling like they're need to be constantly connected. And that's, again, a form of communication, because the body language that they're presenting is that what you're saying is of not importance. It's more important for me to look at the Snapchat than to listen to what you may be saying, because I already know what you're saying.
But yeah, it was valuable to me too. But
Yeah.
I think it had a larger value to
Yeah.
the students. I also did another course at TriC called Successful Communication. You actually did live drills with people.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one just blew me away. You just sat across from somebody, your eyes shut for 10 minutes. And it was amazing how hard that was. And then you started doing things like walking down the street, and you had to make somebody stay a little bit better, 20 random people as a girl. And you had to walk up to 20 random people and just say hello, not necessarily make it better or worse. and then you had to walk up to 20 people, random, and take them down a notch.
Oh.
And, you know, you had to be a little more careful there.
Yeah.
But it was interesting how quickly you could see the reaction on a stranger's face. And you know what he was doing, and maybe it was unfair to randomly treat people like that. But I went out and screened it in. It was pretty interesting to them.
Interesting.
Yeah, them taking it down a notch was a little...
I think I might want to have a friend while I do that. A very big friend.
But taking them up a notch was pretty easy.
Oh, sure.
And it was actually easier than I thought it might have been.
Awesome. Anything else? Thank you.